Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it is as always, because as soon as we hit record, what happened at your house?
The train went by, and so we had to wait a little bit for the train to stop honking its stinking horn, but I understand it's for safety measures. And also they like to just let people know, hey, we're here, because that's how they are. They can't just exist. They have to let people know what's going on. And those are the worst kinds of people. I'm not saying, yes, I'm saying all engineers, train wise or otherwise, the worst.
Yeah, it's as if your vehicle's not big enough. Now we have to, honk the horn and draw more attention to it. Yeah, it's I mean, yes, technically it's for safety, but also, they have to let people know we're recording a podcast, and what better way to do it than to create unnecessary background noise. It's great.
It's perfect. So welcome everybody to our Wednesday edition, our bold prediction show, the best show that we can possibly put on digital tape. I don't know, Tom, is it what's it called? It's not, obviously it's not tape. It's not a memory card.
Hard drives. Yeah.
Into the cloud, perhaps?
Into the cloud, yes. The very best show we can shoot into the cloud.
And that's where it belongs, just up in the sky for everybody. So I guess we should get to the who won last week, Tom. And who won last week, Tom?
Tony, it is a deeply unsatisfying answer. Either neither of us won or both of us won, depending on how you want to look at it. But we tied 2-2, which, I mean, congratulations on your 1992 Ohio State-Michigan game. Igor and Guy will call it the, one of your greatest wins in your bold predicting history, because you finally did snap your long losing streak. So congratulations.
Thank you. I did not lose. So that is a great. Tom, you did lose. You lost a winning streak. So condolences to you on losing that. So you did lose.
As a hockey guy, I can tell you, just because you lost your winning streak does not mean your unbeaten streak has been snapped. So my unbeaten streak stands at 3 weeks. So we will soldier forward with that.
How's your winning streak? Is it over?
Yeah, I mean, more recent than yours. So I guess I've got that going for me.
So let's get started. Do we even need to go? I guess we should run through what we got right and what we got wrong last week. Do we need to do that quickly?
Sure, we can do that. I had... We both did a dueling 220 yards rushing and 220 yards passing prediction last week. I have a feeling we might run into that situation again this week, but we had to bid it up. I bid it up to 230. Ohio State did not get there. Ohio State continues to disappoint me on that front. Ohio State also, I predicted to go 6.9 yards per carry last week. Nope. I predicted Penn State to be held under 124 yard passing yards in the first 3 quarters. Nope. I had Ohio State predicted to give up a half yard less, give up 2.5 yards per less per carry. They did that. Had Trevion Henderson predicted to beat his second highest rushing total of the year by 20 yards or more. So go 122 yards or higher. He did that. So there's my 2. Narrowly missed my 3 Buckeyes over 100 yards, with 2 of them being Trevion Henderson and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Henderson got there. Jackson Smith and Jigba was almost there. And Garrett Wilson was basically 20 yards away. So very nearly hit my 2-pointer, and then very nearly did not hit my 3-pointer. Didn't come anywhere close to my 3-pointer, picking Ohio State to win by 33 points or more.
Now, what I have written for your 3-pointer is just OSU 33-point win. Mm-hmm. Technically, they had 33 points in a win.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
I would have.
No, you would have tried to claim it. I respect the listeners too much, so I would never try to, do the stolen valor thing with something as serious as our bold predictions. So, Tony, what were yours? Run through yours real quick.
Yeah, mine was Ohio State will rush for at least 6.1 yards per carry. That did not happen. I think they were 5.2 or something like that. I don't even know anymore. Ohio State will allow 152 yards total of offense through 3 quarters. That didn't happen. Denzel Burke will have at least 2 pass defenses, and he did not do that. He had 0. He only had 2 tackles. Defensive ends will have more sacks than defensive tackles. That did happen because I predicted it. And then a non-bullet defensive back and a non-Burke defensive back will have an interception. And that did happen when Cameron Brown came away with an interception. My 2-point bonus, I went in saying Ohio State is going to hold Penn State to under 16 yards, and you're like, whoa, that's crazy. That's not bold. And then so we negotiated it down to 7 points. Neither of those two things happened. Tom, we did a lot of unnecessary negotiating. I'm just going to point out the whole 220 to 230, unnecessary. My 3-point bonus, Travion Henderson goes for 212. That did not happen. So we both got 2 exactly correct. And we will just, I guess, carry it over to see what happens this week. Now, we do not carry these points over. Last week is last week. This is a brand new week, Tom. I guess you still have honors if you would like to go ahead, and we can just start the
let's start. Can we have the audience all say it with me? Because I know they know what's coming. Tony,
mm-hmm.
Ohio State rushes for 220 yards, but also, Tony, they pass for 220 yards this week. What say you? As many times as I've gotten this incorrect, it feels like this should be like a 4-pointer, and yet here I am presenting it for a mere 1 point to you. What say you?
What say me? It's also my first one, and the thing is, the reason why it's bold has nothing to do with Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State has done it once, as we all know. That was the week that I predicted them to do it.
Still so mad. Go on.
Nebraska has not allowed a 220 game this year, but now I feel like you might be trying to bid me up here because you don't even want the 220, which now the wheels are turning. Do I really the 220? Here's something, Tom. Ohio State has not rushed for the top 200 yards rushing in their last 3 games. They've missed it 4 times. One, they did it in 2018, then like not again since like, I don't know, like 2008 or something. It's like they don't go this long of rushing under 200 yards. But 220 is a little bit more than that. The best rushing total that Nebraska has given up this year is 204 yards to Michigan. Ohio State's running game is better than Michigan's, but it's not as like entrenched. They can get away from it, whereas Michigan can't always. So you're asking me to give up 220 yards mine. So I'm going to say it's going to have to be at least 227. If you want it, you can have it at 227. I'll leave it be.
All right. I will take 227. This is, I don't really care if I win the whole season. I don't really care if I win more weeks. I need to get this one right once this year. It has been deeply, deeply frustrating because they have gotten, I had it picked, I believe week 1, they were 19 yards short in the rushing game. I had it picked against you had it against Akron. I had it picked against Tulsa. They were 35 yards short in the passing game. They more than did it in the rushing game. They were 12 yards short against Rutgers. Like, this is so frustrating. I really want this to happen. Let's make this happen, gang.
So now I've got to come up with one on the fly. How about Ohio State rushes for 175 and passes for 250 through 3 quarters?
175 and 250 through 3 quarters. I will allow it. Allow it. It's new. And they have not gotten to 175 yards rushing in 2 of the last 3 weeks, and they just barely got there against Indiana. So, yeah, that's good.
I think it might be more bold than yours.
Well, that's your fault.
I completely agree with that statement. What am I doing? I wanted to just stay in that realm because it's easier thinking, and I feel like I've got 6 more coming. I feel like they're all going to hit. So
that's traditionally how this goes for both of us. So absolutely,
it's so bad. All right.
Next one. Ohio State has forced 14 turnovers in 8 games. That's 1.75 turnovers per game. Tony, they forced 3 turnovers or more on Saturday. You started shaking your head because you were sure I was going to say 2. And I said 3 because 3 is bold. 3 is almost double what they're averaging. They forced 3 turnovers or more on Saturday.
Now, Tom, I want to ask you this. How many turnovers per game is Nebraska averaging right now?
Well, let me pull that up. They have lost 6 fumbles, and they have thrown 7 interceptions. So they have 13 turnovers in 9 games. So they're turning it over about 1.4 times per game, something like that.
I have their game log up of how many times they've turned it over each game.
Mm-hmm.
They turned it over 4 times against Purdue. That is the only time this year they've turned it over more than twice, which sounds insane knowing who their quarterback is.
It does. You got to remember, disappointment can take a lot of forms, not just turnovers.
True. And we're not counting turnover on downs.
We're not counting, interceptions and fumbles. Yes.
Okay. I mean, since it has not had, I mean, it just happened. Let's not forget, it just happened. They turned it over, and I believe Adrian Martinez had all 4 of those interceptions.
Sounds right.
I was going through my predictions, and I do have an Adrian Martinez thing in here. I'm like, what if he might just get benched? Like, what if we're going to tie too much into him? And I have with one of my predictions, but no, I have to allow this. I mean, they've only done it once. Granted, again, it just happened. They literally just did it, but since they've only they haven't done it. I wonder how many times they did this last year. Let's see. 3 turnovers.
Do you know the name of Nebraska's backup quarterback?
Is it Logan Smothers?
It is Logan Smothers, which we could have literally a Smothers Brothers situation on Saturday. Which, boy, just when you thought Nebraska football couldn't get any more comedic this year, here we are.
Well, I mean, if he would just keep the ball on the string like a yo-yo, like a real Smothers brother,
right,
and not turn it over, then that would be better. And honestly, it's hard to imagine things being worse with anybody else. Although maybe I guess you could lose by more. But
I would assume Scott Frost recognizes that he has other quarterbacks on the roster, and that Adrian Martinez has had some issues performing in certain important situations in the past, and that things keep not working out in exactly the same way. So if he felt like going with someone else was a better option, I feel like he would have done that by now. So he may not feel that he has a better option on the roster, which is bleak.
Okay, here's my second one. Second one?
Yes.
Ohio State will have 2 plays of at least 50 yards. They've had 11 this season in 8 games. Nebraska has given up, Tom, I will tell you in 1 second, of 50-yard plays or more this season. Nebraska has allowed 2. I am saying Ohio State will equal that season total from Nebraska in this game. And yes, we'll make it from scrimmage, because
I was just going to stipulate this is from scrimmage. We're not counting kick returns. We're not counting. Okay. Yep.
Now, interception returns, those are scrimmage plays. If you just want to make it offense, we can just make it offense.
I think given that you're talking about the fact that they haven't given up this many plays, and we're centering this whole thing around the Nebraska defense, then it feels like we really need to center this around the Nebraska defense. So Ohio State will have 2 scrimmage plays on offense of 50 yards or more. Done. On
Saturday in Nebraska. Okay, done. Okay, see, I told you, I feel like this is going to be a pretty non-contentious show, at least on your part, because you won't have it, like, you are going to agree with the boldness of my predictions. And of course I will. I've already said no, 220 is just too obvious. You're going to have to do more than that. And we all know how 220 is going to happen. So yeah, okay, boom. You have had no problems with my first 2 predictions, and I don't see any problems coming with the rest of mine. What do you have next?
All right, I have Nebraska's opponents are averaging 3.8 yards per run. Nebraska's been very good against the run this year, 3.8 yards per carry. Ohio State averaging 6 yards per carry. So against this Nebraska defense, it's been very good against the run. And a week after they looked really not particularly good running the ball against Penn State, Buckeyes run for at least 6.5 yards per carry, exceed their typical yards per carry by half a yard, and exceed Nebraska's typical yards per carry allowed by 2.7.
6.5. I like it. I think it's sufficiently bold. It's something that Nebraska hasn't done this season, and really the best they have given up is 5.5 against Oklahoma. So Tom, you just played yourself, son.
Now I do think there's a possibility if you hit your 50-yard, your 250 yarders, that one or both of them could come on the ground. I think that's a real possibility. That it seems like Travion Henderson is good for about one of those a week at this point. So that will help. That will help the average. And I do think after not being able to run the ball last week, that may be a real point of focus with the Ohio State offensive line. Like, hey, do better, open up bigger holes, push them further down the field. And generally, when Ohio State has something to work on and any point of focus, they generally excel at it the following week. So that's where I'm coming from in this one, because it is on its face bold. That's where I feel that it's got a possibility of happening. And
both of those 50-yard plays that Nebraska has given up have come on the ground. So maybe they'll both just be Mayan Williams. Let's hope. Everybody, you want to see a kid succeed so bad, and that's Mayan Williams. Tom, was that your third prediction?
That was my third prediction, yes.
What was your second one? Because I did not write it down.
That Ohio State will force 3 turnovers on Saturday.
Okay,
and,
right.
As you were talking about ways you could kind of like weasel your way out of this, I'm really annoyed that we didn't do, in previous games, Ohio State will force 3 turnovers on Saturday. It's like, yeah, they forced 4, or, they forced 3, but, if it's a night game, like, well, one of them came at 12:02 a.m. So technically that was Sunday. So I really wish we're going to have to save that for some of the playoff games later, because some of those run pretty long. They start pretty late. So
now, when you say Ohio State will force 3 turnovers, what about the unforced turnovers?
Yeah, I think obviously this is an Adrian Martinez game. So I think, yes, you have to assume that I also am implying the unforced turnovers.
Okay.
Ohio State will be on the receiving end of 3 turnovers.
Perfectly fair. Now, Tom, here's my third one. Jeremy Ruckert will have a touchdown catch. He's got 3 touchdowns this season.
Mm-hmm.
Those have occurred in just 2 games. He's got 12 touchdowns in his career. Those have occurred in just 8 games. So 8 of the 40 games he's played, he has scored a touchdown. So it's 20% of the time. So I'm saying a touchdown catch. He's played in 8 games now, has touchdown catches in just 2 of those. So I'm saying, Tom, let me finish as I convince you. And you're going to be like, learn to take yes for an answer, because I know you're not going to have an issue with this. So Jeremy Ruckert, touchdown catch this week against Nebraska.
I have a Jeremy Ruckert as my backup, and I'm going to tell you my Jeremy Ruckert, and I will let you take my Jeremy Ruckert, right? Which is not just a one play. And I'll tell you what, you can either have me take this one and you can come up with another one, or you can take this one. Jeremy Ruckert has receptions plus touchdowns. So if he catches a pass, that's 1. If he catches a touchdown pass, he gets a point for the touchdown and a point for the reception. Receptions plus touchdowns of at least 5 on Saturday.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking anyway. So I'll take that.
Okay.
4 catches and a touchdown.
4 catches and a touchdown. Yep, that's fine. Or, I think that is, or
3
catches and 2 touchdowns. Sure.
Or 1 catch and 4 touchdowns.
If he runs back a kick, I'm going to be so annoyed. Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. I think that's a good one. I think that's because then it's I think more in keeping with the spirit of the overall prediction. It's not just like a one weird play can change this. It's more trying to predict the game on the whole. It does seem like it could be a big Ohio State tight end game. So yes, good. Tony, I don't think that's bold enough. And here's why. Let me tell you why, my friend. No, kidding.
All right. We're good there.
All right. So my fourth one. Nebraska has gone for it on 4th down 18 times in 9 games. So two times per game. They attempt 4 or more 4th downs on Saturday. That is a significant number of 4th downs.
Basically doubling their average.
Doubling their average. Now, I think they're going to be behind.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a possibility it's close-ish. Not 50-7 or something like that. I think Scott Frost knows he needs a big win. He needs to, playing it close. A close loss to Ohio State doesn't do him any good right now. I don't know that anything's going to do him any good right now, but a win over Ohio State would do him some good. I think he's like all his chips at the center of the table this weekend. 4 or more 4th down attempts for Nebraska on Saturday.
I will allow that. The only team that Ohio State has played that has attempted at least 4 4th downs was Rutgers. They were 2 for 6. So I can't. I feel like, I don't know if we're disappointing the listeners or giving the listeners relief that we're not being so contentious.
We're going to have a 17-minute show, and we're really going to have to pad this out, because I feel like this is like a 20-minute show, and then we spend 20 minutes bickering back and forth, and then we end up with a 40-minute show. So
no, I like that one. And although I wonder, Tom, with Nebraska losing all of these close games, is it because they don't go for fourth downs enough and maybe Scott Frost plays it too close to the vest at times, or are they losing the close games because he's going for it on fourth down too much? Or do they just play poorly at the end and give up the game when they shouldn't?
They've been close with a lot of teams this year that they've been close with. How many top 10 teams? They had a competitive game against Michigan, a competitive game against Oklahoma, a competitive game against Michigan State. That is a lot of, I think Frost is being a little more aggressive than a lot of coaches. They are 43% on third downs, 55% on fourth downs, 10 of 18 on fourth downs this season. So, I mean, that's pretty good. And that's, that is kind of pushing your chips in. It just like they are so much improved team over what they were in previous years. And it's just like the only place it's not showing up is in the win-loss in the standings. Like it's showing up on the scoreboard. Most of these weeks they're playing much more competitive games. They're not getting smoked by anyone this year. They're playing much more competitive games, but then they find a way to lose to Illinois, and they find a way to lose to, they lose to Michigan State, who is number 3 in the college football playoff rankings, lost in overtime. I believe that was on the road. I mean, like you were within a touchdown of Oklahoma. Like they are so much better, and it's just not showing up in the standings. And it's like, Scott Frost, buddy, I feel bad for you, but I mean, this is tremendous content to paraphrase an old Darren Ravel tweet. Like, I mean, man, Scott, I feel real bad for Scott Frost, but they're playing entertaining games, and it just keeps not working out for him.
And last week at home to Purdue, they lose 28-23 in a game where Adrian Martinez throws 4 interceptions, and just there are no winning plays there. And now it feels like maybe Ohio State is running headlong into a landmine, but we will preview the game on tomorrow's show. So that was 4 fourth down attempts. Now, Tom, do you need to tell me how many they're going to get?
No, I don't.
Well, settles that.
It says right here, no, I don't have to tell Tony how many they're going to make.
Here's mine. Now, you say they will have at least 3 turnovers. I'm saying Adrian Martinez will have a turnover in the third quarter. I don't know what kind it's going to be, but the fourth quarter would have been cheating, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying third quarter turnover. It's a specific player, a specific quarter. There's only 2 ways he can turn the ball over. He can only fumble it, or he can only throw an interception.
So a safety doesn't count.
Ooh, Tom.
I mean, you just said a safety doesn't count, and I said a safety doesn't count. So therefore, a safety doesn't count.
I don't really view that as a turnover, though. That's a
fine.
sack, but it is a turnover
I know you
downs,
don't,
essentially.
I know you don't view it as a turnover now. The question is, will you argue that you view it as a turnover this time next week? And my suggestion is that, yes, you will, in fact, view it as a turnover this time next week if you need it to. But
let's talk about these. Let's talk about these fourth down conversions as well.
No. Interception or fumble. Interception or fumble is absolutely fine. That's fine. That's totally fine. And
once again, my own words have been used against me.
The best is going to be when there's like a bad exchange with the running back, and you and I just spend in like 45 minutes next week screaming like, no. I mean, the running back has clearly taken possession of the ball. That's on him, not on Adrian Martinez.
What if a fumble occurs on fourth down and you'd be like, what? They just didn't convert it.
Right, exactly. No, they didn't. They didn't convert it. If it rolls out of bounds, it's not a turnover. It's just a failed fourth down.
No, that's a fumble.
But that's not. But that's you said a turnover. That's not a turnover.
A fumble that is not recovered by the offense is a turnover.
No, a fumble that is recovered by the defense is a turnover.
We'll get Bill Carello on the phone.
Let's do that. Let's do that. I had a good time talking to Bill at the Big Ten Media Days over the summer. We will get Bill on the phone.
Bill, settle a bet, a very serious bet. And then, or maybe we can let the listeners decide that one. If it happens, Tom, I am going to be so irate. And then I will know what it is like to be Scott Frost and to be let down by Adrian Martinez and his turnovers.
There you go. Yeah, no, I like that one because this is one of the ones that I never think of because I'm always looking at like the statistics and the big picture. You just have these like one specific scenario, and it's like, well, if this guy does this one thing in this one quarter, and I'll be so annoyed if it happens because it's like, well, of course it happened, but I can't say it's not bold because it's one guy in one quarter. So, all right, if Adrian Martinez fumbles the ball that's recovered by an Ohio State player throws an interception that is intercepted by an Ohio State player in the third quarter of Saturday's game in Lincoln, you are correct. Okay, good. All right. Number 5 for me. Ohio State has given up 60% of their touchdowns through the air this year, 12 out of 20. They've given up an average of 1.5 passing touchdowns per game. Tony, they give up 0 passing touchdowns on Saturday.
0 passing touchdowns. Let me see here. That's interesting. How many times this season have they given up 0 passing touchdowns, Tom? I will tell you, as I click through here and look quickly, 0 passing touchdowns. They have not done it yet this year.
So this feels like this should be like a 3-pointer then?
Nope, it's a 1-pointer, Tom, because they've done many games with only 1 touchdown.
That's why that's why one wouldn't be bold.
So by definition, like by all definitions, I have to allow this. I apologize to the listeners, or I reward you by not contending with this one. 0 passing touchdowns. Now, granted, the Nebraska quarterback is Adrian Martinez. How many times this year has he not thrown a touchdown pass in the game? Tom, I will answer that for you. As I click through these stats very quickly, that has happened just once, and it was against Michigan State. So I have no, I can't possibly have any issues with this. As much as I don't have any faith in Adrian Martinez, the Ohio State secondary has not been shut down, a shutdown secondary. So there are some things that can happen. I think they've been pretty decent in the red zone, but okay, Tom, I will allow this one because I have no good argument against it.
Good.
Which unfortunate. I'm upset with myself mostly. 0 passing touchdowns in the entire game.
Yes.
Including overtime.
Yes. Passing 2-point conversions in triple overtime do not count. Those are not touchdowns. Those are 2-point conversions.
Now, Tom, I'll give you this. If the number of 2-point conversions in overtime equals 6, I will count that as a touchdown.
I mean, that seems very unlikely that that's going to happen on Saturday. But also, I don't want to encourage you, so I'm going to fight you on this one for no reason whatsoever, other than principle and spite, not necessarily in that order.
Reverse panhandling. No, I do not want your change. So
help is not on the way, sir.
So here is mine. My fifth and final 1-pointer. Steel Chambers will finish in the top 3 tacklers for the Buckeyes.
Wow. I was looking, I will give you that immediately. I will tell you, I spent a lot of time looking at Steel Chambers and trying to figure out what a good number for Steel Chambers is. Mm-hmm. Here's why, if you're not remembering, here's why this is really, really bold. Steel Chambers not playing the first half of the game. He's sitting out for targeting. So that this is a very bold prediction by Tony. I like it a lot. I was really trying to find a number that made sense. I was going to give you a specific number, 4 tackles, 5 tackles, 6 tackles, whatever. It's very hard to come up with a reasonable number for him because he's not played so much early in the year and then playing much more and seems like he's taking a much bigger role. But to take a guy who's not going to play in the first half and pick him to have the top 3 tackles and finish top 3 tackles of the team. And just to be clear, if 2 people finish tied for first with, let's say Ronnie Hickman and Tommy Eichenberg have 8 tackles and Taraja Mitchell has 7 tackles and Steel Chambers has 6 tackles, Steel Chambers would be 4th because there would be 3 people ahead of him. Even if if he's tied with Taraja Mitchell there, tied for second, then that would be fine. If there are 3 people above him on the stat sheet with a higher number of tackles next to their names, he does not finish 3rd. But yes, I will give you this one. This is a great one.
Well, here's the thing. And knowing that even though he's only going to play a half, he rotates. So he's essentially only going to be playing like a quarter, almost if you want to think about it. But Tom, I do not agree with your assessment. So I would say you got to give me at least a top 4 then. And then if he finishes 4th or above, then I get it.
I like the fact that you're completely discarding normal, the normal way society functions with how these things work. Like, well, no, I didn't. I didn't mean literally 3rd. I meant 4th.
Tom, let's not fight. I'll keep it top 3 tacklers on the box score. Boom.
Mm-hmm. if they list them,
I'm just hoping
if they list them alphabetically and he's somehow second in the.
I'm just hoping what I'm seeing is just a bunch of guys with 4 tackles, and then he comes in and makes like 3 tackles on one drive and then 2 on another, and then
yeah, and I think he's going to play a lot in the second half because they're going to want to get him the reps, and I think that they feel like he's taking on an increasing role. So you're probably seeing a lot of Taraja Mitchell in the first half, and Ryan Day talked about Paula Ienaoteote playing more and potentially this week, so maybe he's going to spot playing at one of those spots, and maybe he's at the mic and they kick someone else over to the will to help Taraja Mitchell in the first half, but I think you're going to see a lot of Steel Chambers in that second half. So that is a good one, but it is very bold.
And I go back to last week when Steel Chambers was in the game. Ohio State gave up 3 points. When he wasn't, they gave up 21. So that's some math that Ohio State can use. Tom, what is your first 2-pointer?
I am going back to the well on something I did last week. 3 players with over 100 yards rushing or receiving. Again, this has only happened twice this year in 8 games for Ohio State. 2 points.
3 players over 100 yards rushing or receiving.
Correct.
You've got to give me one of the receivers, because then there's a chance you could get it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I knew you were going to say this, and I've gone around in circles a bunch because I feel like Jackson Smith and Jigba has to be like Jackson Smith and Jigba feels like he's the guy who is the most likely to do it. He's not going to do it in a big play, but he's going to have a lot of receptions. He and Travion Henderson, I think if you were asking me to name 2 of them, those are probably the 2 I would name. I'll tell you what, I'll name 2 of them if you give me 100 yards of total offense.
No.
3 players with 100 yards of total offense. No,
you got to name me a receiver.
All right, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm going with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I have almost talked myself into Chris Olave because it feels like after a quiet Chris Olave game, you have the big Chris Olave game. So I think it's probably going to be Henderson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Olave. But I'm going to say Jackson Smith and Jigba for sure.
And I was looking at Chris Olave as well because he's been a little bit quiet. I wonder how much that's just defenses are going to try to live with everybody else making noise against them. But how much longer are they going to continue to allow that? And then boom, Chris Olave goes free. But we will, we'll see how that one works out for you. I like that one, Tom. And still, it is bold because it's 3 players. But I just had to get you locked in on one player. That way, if Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave go over 100 and Travion Henderson goes over 100, I'm just going to be so happy. Or Tom, if Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams both rush for 100 yards and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave both go over 100 yards receiving, I might throw a pizza party for the entire class. It's like that, we're just going to celebrate. So, okay, I will allow that one. That one's a good one. My first 2-pointer. And we'll see what you think. A freshman will be involved in a turnover defensively. A defensive freshman will be involved in a turnover. That could be forcing a fumble, intercepting a pass, recovering a fumble, recovering a blocked punt, blocking a punt.
Is a blocked punt really a turnover?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're attempting. They are already attempting. Once the ball hits the foot,
but they have already
begun to turn the ball over to the other team.
It doesn't go past the line of scrimmage. Now I can make this even more bold and say true freshman.
I'm going to make you say true freshman because like half the team is freshmen this year because of the NCAA rules. So there's no way I'm giving you 2 points on that. I will allow you to pick 3 different true freshmen because frankly, I think you could pick. I think you could I have 3 true freshmen. I would in my head pick right away to say one of these 3 true freshmen will be involved, and if you do that, I will allow you blocked punt.
Now then I got to pick like Marvin Harrison or something.
Yes, you do. Yes, I mean, I'll tell you what. I will tell you who I would pick if I was in your position while you're thinking about it. I think you go Denzel Burke. I think you go Tyleik Williams, and I think you go Marvin Harrison. Because Harrison has come very, very close to blocking. He almost blocked 2 different punts against Maryland. Burke has had interceptions. Williams, you figure, may get a sack, strip sack kind of situation. Those are the 3 that I would go with if I was going with true freshmen.
Well, and I'm definitely going to go with Denzel Burke. I was thinking Tyleik Williams again, even though he had a tweet out there saying free 91, and does that upset the coaches, and does that cut back into his playing time? Probably not. My other guy is JT Tuimoloau with a strip sack, and so I have to weigh those options against the Nebraska punt. But will Marvin Harrison have more opportunities than JT Tuimoloau or Tyleik Williams? It's a very, very, very difficult thing for me. Can you just, Tom?
I think I've changed my answer on who the three should be, by the way. I think you've talked me into Tuimoloau over Tyleik Williams, because I think you come off the edge. A lot of those, I think most of the strip sacks have been coming off the edge this year, right? That's been, Zach Harrison had one, Tyreek Smith had one. There was like Smith and Harrison both last week. So I think I've changed my mind on who you should pick there, but go ahead.
Now, if I take Marvin Harrison, then I also get the opportunity for him to turn the ball over on offense. In which case, if he gets a catch,
you absolutely do not.
I'll be yelling, strip him. So I'm going to go with Denzel Burke. What about, no, I'm not even going to throw Jesse Mirko in there. That's just because now we're talking about block punts in an entirely new way.
Nebraska blocks a punt, yeah.
So Denzel Burke, JT Tuimoloau, and I am going to go with Tyleik Williams. And when Marvin Harrison goes ahead and blocks that punt, but here's the other thing. He could block it, but it still goes forward. Then it's really just a punt. But of course, Tyleik Williams could strip a sack, and then Nebraska recovers, and it's just a sack and a forced fumble, but not a fumble recovery. So again, Tom, the fumble has to be recovered. Gosh, that's another thing. So many moving parts.
Well, the show's not going to be short this week anymore. That's good. Thank you for solving that problem.
And me, I'm just arguing with myself rather than arguing with you. I could have done this before the show.
Could have,
but I didn't. Should have, but I didn't. I'm going to go Denzel Burke, Tyleik Williams, JT Tuimoloau. Boom, locked in.
Done. I like it. I like it a lot. That's a good creative one. I like it a lot. I'm glad you didn't go with Jesse Mirko, because every once in a while you'll hear the announcer say, "Oh, he really turned the ball over on that kick," and you'll be like, "God, see?"
That's a good one, Tom.
I would fight you to death on that one, so it's probably for the best you didn't do that one. All right, my 3-pointer. Ohio State has 29 sacks. They've given up 9 this year, so they are plus 20 in sacks on the year. It's an average margin of plus 2.5 sacks per game. Tony, this week they double that number. They finished plus 5 in sacks this week against Nebraska. The only time they've done that all season is against Akron, which, as we all know, is not people. Your thoughts?
I like it, but first I must see how much I actually like it by seeing how close they have been this season to allowing that. And of course I can't, because I don't have that. Now they've only been over 5.
They have only hit. Yeah, they've only been over 5 sacks once this year. That was 10 against Akron, which has really skewed the numbers. Other weeks, 2, 0, 2, 1, 5, 5, 4. If they get 5, they still can't give up a sack, and I believe they've given up a sack in every week except for one this year. So,
I mean, it feels doable, and I guess that's why you kind of got to let these 2 and 3 pointers come into play a little bit. They can't just be, it's impossible. But I'm going to have to say, Tom.
I like the fact that your immediate reaction was, "Ooh, that's a good one. I like it." And then it's like, well, but I mean, I can't let you have it. I mean, obviously.
5.5.
So that means 6, because you're not going to get a half a sack on the team stat sheet.
Now I'll allow it, because that's pretty good. And it is double. I do expect, CJ Stroud to be sacked at least once. I mean, I don't know if it's a 3-pointer, but here you go. I will allow it, but you have to name. I want to say name 2 of the players, but that's too much. That's a lot. I will allow you to name one of the sackers.
One of the sackers. So one of the sacks has to come from that guy. Now, if
a whole sack,
A whole sack. Okay. And if they're +6, then it's okay if that guy doesn't get one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Well, now I have to go back and look at the sack totals for the year.
This is so convoluted.
Haskell Garrett at 4.5. Alec Williams at 4. Zach Harrison at 3. Antoine Jackson 2.5. JC Tuimoloau 2.5. Jack Sawyer 2. And then a whole lot of guys with 1. I'm going to say Zach Harrison. I'm going to take Zach Harrison there. One of them has to be Zach Harrison. Okay. I love the fact that these are basically we're going to have to like retain counsel by the time this season is over to like put these together. It's now listen, when you say has to be Zach Harrison, what does word has to really mean? I mean, really,
that depends on what your meaning of the words has to is. So I'll allow that 3-pointer, 5 sacks, plus 5 sacks, as long as one of them is Zach Harrison, or plus 6 sacks if it's not Zach Harrison.
And I have to put one. I put one has to be Zach Harrison, but I'm actually going to put 1.0 has to be Zach Harrison because precision is the most important thing with matters this important.
The thing is, like, he may need 2 half sacks, Tom. So there you go. Okay, I like that one. My last one, my 3-pointer, and we'll see where we have to go from here. Ronnie Hickman will have an interception. He's got 2 on the year, correct? That is correct. He has 2 on the year.
2 on the year.
And I'm picking a guy, this is the toughest pick of all. This is the toughest prediction, is predicting a guy to have an interception. He's gone 4 games without an interception. He hasn't had one since Akron. He had one against Tulsa. Never had an interception in conference play. I am saying he is going to have an interception this week. He's been pretty quiet. He's tackling the ball. He had 14 tackles last week. So he's getting too near the ball and not far enough away from it to actually come in with an interception, which is a concern.
Yeah. Famously, a difficult part about intercepting the ball is being real close to it, having come right to you. That's a very difficult part of intercepting the ball. What was your 2-pointer again? Because this very much feels like a 2-pointer to me. A 3-pointer feels like it needs to be a little more convoluted.
My 2-pointer was the freshman will be involved in a turnover, and I picked 3 guys. So do you want to, since our 3-pointers are kind of similar, or my 2-pointer is similar to your 3-pointer, do you want to switch these around?
I'll tell you what. Why don't you take your 2-pointer? Well, I'll give you the Hickman interception as a 2-pointer. If you take your freshman as a 3-pointer, but you can only pick 2 of the guys.
I feel like the Ronnie Hickman one is pretty bold, but I also feel like, is it against Adrian Martinez?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm with 1 point saying they're going to turn it over 4 times or something, 3 times.
I'll tell you what.
3 times.
I'll tell you what. A freshman will be involved in a turnover. I will take Tyleik Williams, but you got to let me add in Marvin Harrison in case he blocks a punt. Come on. I'm predicting essentially Marvin Harrison to block a punt, and that's bold. In fact, that should be my 3-pointer.
But if the ball crosses the line of scrimmage, it is not a punt block. Okay.
It's not a turnover.
Yeah, okay, I will allow it.
It's so stupid.
We have argued enough that I feel like we've done our job.
True.
I just want the listeners to understand that we take this seriously. And some might say too seriously. I say wrong.
Yeah. I say not seriously enough. I'm smiling.
Barely seriously enough.
So I think we got a good list of 14 bold predictions here. I like it. I haven't come away as angry as I normally am, which tells, and I don't think you're as angry as you normally are.
I think we're getting dialed in. I think we're getting dialed in on where the threshold for boldness is. And, I at the beginning of the year was looking at one team stats, and then sometimes the other team stats would make it look like it was not as bold as it was when I looked. So I'm trying to take a more holistic view of these things now. I think we're both getting bolder and better together.
Yeah, very more holistic. All right. All right, that'll do it. I want to thank all of you, unless Tom doesn't have anything left. He's fine. So that We do want to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, sorry for that.
No, you're not.
I'm a little caught off guard by my own terrific joke. Just like when a dog wakes himself up by farting, you're like, what? All right, that will do it for today's show. Thank you guys all for tuning in. As always, you can find us at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. If you'd rather listen to the podcast form, find us on all of your podcast platforms at Buckeye Weekly Podcast, and subscribe to either of those places and find us whenever we drop a new show. So thank you guys, and we will talk to you tomorrow.